Blind with the sun in my eyes. Okay, here we go. We got a live stream. My name's Moshe. I'm coming to you from Israel and the Galilee. Uh, I'm going to predominantly cover two things today. There was a very big, major, super big escalation militarily with Venezuela and America, and it's a big breakdown, and we're going to go through it. And since what happened is Trump is now painted into a corner, he has to go to war with Venezuela, or he's going to look like a schmuck. And Iran and Russia and China and everybody are going to take grievous, gross advantage of America if he does not go to war now. So Trump has been painted into a corner, and it may be that Venezuela has Rscalation missiles, which could get, I believe, all the way up to Boston, definitely New York and D.C. So this is going to be a big topic because this could light up the whole world, and we're going to go through it. And it's rather serious, okay? And I'm going to give you the history of what Venezuela did to the oil companies. And you're looking at when the American oil companies ran Venezuela oil before Venezuela confiscated it, they were banging out 3.2 million barrels a day. They can't even get a million now. So you're looking at something that would be worth 3.2 million barrels a day, which is a fortune. Okay, we're going to get into everything like this because it looks seriously like there's going to be a war. Not that Trump had the guts to do it. The fact that Maduro had the guts to paint Trump into a corner right now, banking on the fact that Trump doesn't have the guts to go to war. Now, there's a small chance that Maduro's right, but not a big chance. Trump, in my book, is a loser, but he's not this bad of a loser. If he does not go to war and lets Venezuela get away with what they just did, he's going to suffer from Russia, Belarus, North Korea, China, and Iran, and Syria, and Yemen, and Lebanon, and other Muslim countries. It's going to be really bad for America. So he might punk out. But I have a feeling this time he might have to go through with it. We'll see, okay? And Israel just wound up. It's a little bit of a complicated story with billions of dollars, billions with a B of barrels of oil. Okay? That's a huge find. Now, I'm not talking about our Leviathan natural gas field that's in the Mediterranean, where we just made a massive, huge, multi-billion-dollar deal with Egypt, just got signed the last 24 or 36 hours. I'm not talking about that. That's liquid natural gas, a huge deal. In addition to that, we made a probably something like $6 or $7 billion deal with Germany for our missile defense systems. See, when you're a country of Israel with barely 10 million people, something like $6 billion deal goes a long way. Okay? And the deal with Egypt is hundreds of billions. It's huge. Now we're sitting on billions of barrels of oil, and I'll give you the whole detail on that. And you can thank the Donald for that. And we'll get into it. Oh man, the sun is killing my eyes. Whoa, I can't do anything here. Okay, I'm going to go have to hold the iPad up to block the sun. It'll move in a few minutes and it'll be over with. I'm going to go into the live stream, make sure we got a live stream. Wait a minute, where is my live stream? I don't know what happened to it. Let me go back. Oh, no. I don't know if we have a live stream. I could be talking to myself. Let me look. No, there's a live stream. I gotta find it. Okay. Probably something to do with me being blinded by the sun. It's terrible. Yeah, I think I have it now. See if I could get it to open. Nope. Okay, I'll have to reboot. That's the only quick way of getting this idiot thing to work. The YouTube app is very deficient for being a decent app. I mean, it does a lot of things, but it has so many glitches. It's unbelievable. And of course, I'm on Apple. And when you're on Apple, you fare much worse than you do with Android or other operating systems. They do, I mean, Telegram is terrible with Apple products. I mean, it's horrible. So it's a real problem having. I hate Apple products now. They're so deficient. They used to be pretty good. They're not pretty good anymore. They're pretty lousy and they're pretty expensive. They get features in there like they have the brightest picture. I'm not getting it anymore. Something went wrong. I'm suspecting there's been a change in the app with those idiots at YouTube again. See, it shows me I got I can't make it open. Let me see if this will work. I have an idea how to make it open. Let me try to share it to Telegram and then open it on Telegram. That's how bad YouTube has become. Okay, let me see if I could open it. Yep, I can open it. Yep, I can open it. And I can't do anything. I could just make sure it's. I can't do anything. No, it's still. No, it won't close. It closed. I'm just not going to be able to put any posts up or anything. Okay. Let's just. It just gets worse and worse with YouTube. I tell you, it's comical already. It's so bad. It's a joke. It might be time to move on. I don't know where to move to. Okay, I'm going to do some praise, being a Bible-believing site. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 I'm going to see if I can make the hood on this thing shelter me from that bright sunlight, which, oh, it helps, yeah. Not completely, but somewhat. Okay, so what happened? Venezuela decided that they're going to move their oil tankers around with escorts from the Venezuelan Navy warships, which Venezuela has. So they're sending, I don't know how many warships with each tanker, one at least, or there'd be nothing there. And they might be flying planes overhead, although I've never read that. I have no reason to believe that's what happened. So Trump could no longer smoothly go out and interdict the oil tankers going to and fro Venezuela that he believes are subject to American sanctions. So he's playing Caesar of the world, king of the world. Oh, I put sanctions so I could take their oil and take their ships, right? Okay. So Venezuela said they had enough of that. So now they're sending military escorts with all the oil tankers that could be subject to, I think, any and all oil tankers they're sending it out to. By the way, I didn't say this, but it's December 18th, and it's now 8:31 in the morning here in Israel. And it's cold. It was 46 degrees a little while ago. It's going to hit about 63 today. It was really cold last night. Okay, so now Trump is painted into a corner. Okay, if he's going to interdict the ships, what he's got to do is he's got to go with some aircraft flying overhead, probably like 2 at least, maybe 4 for effect, but it'll be at least 2, even F-16s, F-18s, F-15s. Will take out the Navy ship that, that Maduro's using. They just take it out at distance with rockets. It's not hard for that to happen, okay? Pretty easy. Trump's destroyers and missile cruisers could take his ship out too at distance. But does he have the guts to do it? He hasn't displayed having the guts previously. Now he's painted into a corner. But let's try to understand Trump's thinking. If China, Iran, or Russia gave Maduro a handful of long-range missiles, medium or long range, then Trump may not have 100% proof of this. He might have 75% certainty or something like that. What is Trump going to do? Is Trump going to take a chance that the White House gets hit with missiles? See, Trump doesn't have a lot of good anti-missile systems in America. He has very few. He could protect certain military bases. He might maybe be able to protect huge airports like Atlanta and JFK, but honestly, I doubt he has that capability. I give it 80% no, he doesn't have that capability. Can he protect the White House? Yeah, what about Mar-a-Lago? Probably. What about St. Louis? What about Biloxi, Mississippi? What about San Diego? What about San Francisco? What about Seattle? What about Chicago? Yeah, you getting the idea? Does he have systems to protect these cities? Zero. I'm not saying there's a slight chance. I'm telling you, stone cold zero. He can't do it. That's why he started with the gold dome, whatever the heck what he's doing is he's in my opinion, using Israel's iron beam laser system. But he's probably not going to have that until, the last few months in office, if he even gets that far, which prophetically ain't going to happen. So he's a sitting duck for civilian targets. Does he probably have protection for the Pentagon? I'm sure. What about NSA and the CIA? I would think so. How? They can mount the things up on the roof. They can put them outside, lightly camouflaged, like in a tent or a garage-looking thing that they open up. Anything, on trucks, he could have them hidden inside structures. So there's all kinds of things he could do like that. Okay, so does he have enough anti-missile systems to protect a lot of the key structures inside the United States? He does, but they're not very great systems. The Patriot is nothing to write home about. We used them and we stopped. And the THAAD, Iran defeated the THAAD. Yep, Iran defeated the THAAD back in June in the 12-day war. Yep. And he don't have that many THAADs anyway, but it ain't no good. 17% of the Iranian missiles that were shot at us managed to penetrate 4 layers. And this was 6 months ago. They've been working on them. It penetrated the Iron Dome, the Arrow, David Sling, and the THAAD. Plus, it penetrated anti-missile systems in foreign countries that it had to pass over to the tune of 17%. They didn't get all through. Now, we've been revising our systems, and they've been revising their systems. There is no such thing as a missile defense system that's going to work 99% of the time. 75% would be more like typical. Okay? Not 99%. So we got up into the, roughly 83% area, which is not that high compared to 75, but that's using 4 systems. No one system is going to get up that high. And of the 4 systems we were using, there was redundancy. Even the jerk Houthis, when they had a few advanced missiles, got a few through. Okay? So what am I telling you? I am telling you that if Maduro shoots at America, he's going to get them through to some extent. On a military target, much lower odds of success for Maduro. On civilian targets, I can't imagine him being unsuccessful. No, he'll get through. I would think not 17%, more like 40, 50% of them will get through. Yep. Yeah, I'm pretty serious. I live here for years, and I know all about missile attacks. And I know all about what Netanyahu slings the bull around and what really goes on. Okay? And we shoot at these missiles as they don't even come into Israel geography yet, and we're shooting at them. And then we shoot at them as the missile progresses. It keeps getting shot at. That means we got a lot of redundancy. Perhaps they'd be the same anti-missile systems, but so what? It works. Okay? In addition, countries like Saudi Arabia and Jordan do takedowns for us, plus American ships. Now, can American ships do takedowns for America? Yes, they can. Would they be effective to some extent? Yes. But this Rscalation missile is supposed to be hypersonic, which it is. So I don't know how good the American defenses are going to be against it. Now, this explains Trump's behavior. He won't provoke Venezuela fully. He attacks drug ships. Well, what happens if Venezuela starts sending aircraft and naval vessels to protect drug ships? Well, that's pretty much the UN is going to go after Venezuela. Okay, so that's what Trump's been doing. Trump has not attacked the land in Venezuela where the drug cartels are growing cocaine, coca, and they're probably making fentanyl and other drugs in big industrial buildings and growing maybe marijuana, although that's not such a big money crop anymore for America, but it's still probably worth it. And he has not yet attacked that, has he? So what is Trump afraid of? He's afraid of something. He's not a humanitarian. What's scaring him? Well, probably he's afraid that China, Iran, Russia, maybe North Korea gave Maduro in Venezuela good long-range missiles. Now, he might not have 3 or 4. He might have 18 or 20. And that might be what Revelation 18 is. Washington, D.C. gets hit by his missiles. Can you prove to me that's not the case? No. Can I prove to you it is the case? No. Is it possible that this is really going to be fire and brimstone from Jehovah? Yes. Is it possible this could be missiles from Venezuela? Yes. Could Venezuela be getting help from Russian submarines launching missiles, Chinese boats disguised to look like civilians, vessels that launch missiles, and Iranian boats that look like container ships that launch missiles? Yeah. Is it likely they're going to be able to take out a lot of military facilities? No, but if they go for military facilities, you see, the Rscalation got 6 warheads. So when it gets near the target, it breaks up, okay, into 6 pieces. And each of the 6 pieces has 6 more warheads. So you can't take it out. Now you got 36 warheads coming down on you. You might get some of them. You're not getting all of them. Chances are Maduro would go for military airports, military Navy bases, military anything, okay, or government buildings. And if Maduro starts firing the shots, they may join in. Is America going to tell you that they've spotted 3 or 4 ships floating around America that they believe belong to North Korea, China, Iran, and Russia that are disguised civilian vessels that can shoot missiles out of containers and launch drones in the hundreds? No, they won't tell you. Create panic. So, what happens if Trump does not attack Venezuela? Venezuela laughs at Trump publicly, keeps running his ships to protect them from America and break sanctions. And Iran does the same, and Russia does the same, because they have definitive proof that Trump's a punk. And they have missiles, just like Venezuela does, only more and better delivery from ships and so forth. And Trump will never attack them. And then things for America deteriorate way, way, way worse. From there, the next step is to start attacking America and see what Trump does, which is probably nothing. America's in a snare, not Trump, America. Okay? Jeremiah 50, verse 24. America's in a snare. And that means things go wrong. And with Trump, everything's going wrong. So this is going to go wrong too, Venezuela. It's hard for me to believe that China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran, all allies and buddies of Venezuela, didn't give him any missiles. How do we know that China, Iran, Russia, North Korea don't have a dozen or two missiles inside Cuba that are hypersonic? So the strike time from Cuba to South Florida is 90 miles. And if you're going at 3,500 miles an hour at the low speed for hypersonic, right? Or 4,000 really. You're going 4,000 miles an hour. In 30 minutes, you're going 2,000 miles. In 15 minutes, you're going 1,000 miles. So a tenth of that is in 1.5 minutes, and that's 100 miles. So he could hit Florida from Cuba in 1.5 minutes after launch. So the guys sitting around in the room running the anti-missile system, the military, are sitting there and they detect the launch, right? So he pushes a button, and a red light goes on over his workstation, or he raises his hand or he yells out, and some guy, likely a captain, comes over, maybe a major, and says, "What do you got?" And he shows him the screen. And the guy looks at the screen for a few minutes, not a few minutes, a few seconds, and he's too low of an officer to give the fire instructions. So he gets a hold of a full bird colonel or a general, probably in the room or down the hall or in the building, and he takes a look at what's going on and gives a signal to fire. Now, that is going to take, you're not going to get it in 30 seconds, probably 60 seconds, best case. It could even be 90 seconds. It's too late. First, the guy has to detect it. He might not detect the launch in 5 seconds. He might not detect it for 20, 30 seconds. Then he's got to get his immediate officer walking around the room there to come over, and that could take a half a minute and look at it, and then he calls the general, the full colonel or something, and they take the time to look at it, and by then, boom, you're gone. It blew up. That's from Cuba. That's not from Venezuela. Cuba may not want to play that game. Oh, it gets worse. Venezuela went to Colombia. You know, Trump's been threatening to Colombia, saying they're next. So they got together. Apparently, Maduro went to Colombia and said, you know, Trump wants to pick me off and pick you off. Let's unite our military and we'll scare Trump off. Do I think that's sound for Colombia and Venezuela? Yep. Do I think it'll work? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The other one or two that might join in with this is Brazil and Bolivia. Just the general principles, they don't like Trump bullying them around. And they're smart enough to realize that if we're united, he's not going to be, he's so scared of Venezuela all by his lonesome. If there's 2 or 3 of us grouped together, he's going to be super scared. This could be the Russians and the Chinese trying to get Trump to get himself engrossed in a big fight in South America. And that leaves him more exposed inside America. Like I said, why take your resources and hit Taiwan and South Korea and the UK and Nordic countries when you could just attack America? And then after you get rid of America, you could pick all these other countries off at your leisure. Two and a half million people left America by deportation and voluntary leaving, and the sleeper agents. Trump himself, before he was elected, said there could be 30 million illegals in America. People that retired, one guy retired from Border Patrol down in Texas, even went as high as 40 million. And he was saying that 60 to 70% of them are sleeper agents, military age males who came by themselves, fit and the right age. So let's say you had 20 million, and let's say the figure was 60%. That gives you 12 million sleeper agents. Let's cut it in half, 6 million. Cut it in half to 3 million again. That's enough to wreck America, 3 million, but it's probably higher. What if it is 6 million? And they've accumulated vehicles, motorcycles, trucks, cars, buses, who knows what. And they have weapons. They would have more than just rifles, pistols, and squad machine guns. They would have shoulder-fired missile type things, anti-tank missile, stingers to take down aircraft. Maduro says he has 5,000 stingers. So if they get a visual on a jet, okay, 2 or 3 of them could fire stingers at close time proximity at the jet. Now the jet has to evade 3 incoming missiles that they might have a lock on, okay? They could be wire guided. So all the shooter has to do after he shoots it is keep the sight on the plane. So if it's a stealth plane and it comes down low enough to be seen, the stealth doesn't work on this system. It's wire guided. They get a lock on it with a visual, and boom! Now the missile launching system has it, and it fires that missile. But that missile's going to go pretty fast. Let's take a look at how fast the Stinger goes. Give us an idea how difficult it's going to be for that plane to get away from it if it's wire guided. Top speed is about Mach 2.2. That's 1,700 miles per hour. The range, it's going to strike its target because it's limited by range within 5 to 10 seconds. It accelerates to the 1,700 miles per hour rather rapidly. Now, they could get an aircraft not quite at 1,700 miles per hour, but they could get, planes up anyway. I think F-35s get up around 1,200 miles per hour when they hit the afterburners. Let me check range and altitude. It didn't give me that. Okay. The sun's lightening up on me in my eyes. It moved finally. The minimum range is 200 meters, and the maximum effective range is about 3 miles. That's max. Okay. They really say 2.5 to 3.1 miles is the distance it can go. It can get up as high as 12,000 feet. So it's a very dangerous thing. And if there's one guy running around with one of these Stingers shoulder-fired launcher and he sees a plane and fires at it, okay, that's one thing. The plane has a problem then. It has to fire, like heat flares and electronic countermeasures, stuff like that, right? But if you got 3 or 4 of these characters together and they all fire Stingers at the same time, do you know what kind of crazy threat that becomes for the plane? Now, if the plane's up at 12,000 feet, you're going to have a very small target in the fighter jet. And if it's a cloudy day, you're not going to have a target. And if it's dark outside, you don't have your target. So this thing got limitations, okay? It's basically a line of sight weapon, I believe. Or, yeah, I believe that's what it is, line of sight. Then I have similar things for tanks. But the tank ones, I don't believe, go that fast. And I don't believe they are set to go at any great altitude. They probably could, of course, go, 3,000 feet or something like that to shoot up on a mountain or something like that. But it would be a different type of a weapon because this thing would have to penetrate armor. So it's a whole different warhead. It's probably a bigger warhead, more powerful, and it's going to go slower. And it's not going to be very useful to shoot at aircraft. Maybe a low-flying helicopter could work, But you could shoot them at tanks. And, if you've got reactive body armor, it's the same old thing. If one guy is shooting it, the reactive body armor might help. But if you've got 3 or 4 guys shooting it at roughly the same time, and the body armor is going to go away. I mean, it's going to blow up and it's not going to be there, and then they're going to get a good hit. Helicopters are quite vulnerable from a multitude of weapons. They could be taken out by anti-aircraft guns. They could be taken out by rifle fire. Is probably not going to happen. But if you've got a 50 caliber machine gun or a 20 millimeter, and you've got radar control on it, and you put a lock on, a helicopter. You don't even need radar. You just start firing at the helicopter. You could easily shred the helicopter. Shooting it with a rifle is going to be tough. The range of a 50 cal is going to be much greater than that of a regular rifle. And the 20 millimeter, of course, is the way to go. That's got a 5-mile range. So once you start bearing down on the helicopter's going to try to get the heck out of there and retreat. And it's probably going to go 170 miles an hour. But if you're bearing down on it, you just need, maybe 2 or 3 hits, and you'll break the thing up with a 20 millimeter, if not 1 hit. Plus you could kill the people inside. They do have armored helicopters. I think they call them Cobra. They'll sustain 50 caliber, but I don't believe they could hold up to 20 millimeter. So, what you need to know now is, what is Trump after? And Trump is covetous with capital letters, okay? Trump is after oil. There's oil companies that got hurt by Venezuela years ago. Let's go into the details so you can see what Trump's motivation is. But, his cover story is the narcotics. I don't think he really cares about it. Mexico's dumping narcotics in, and probably every country from Mexico to Argentina is doing it, probably every single one. And a lot of them probably bringing the drugs into the Caribbean nations, and from there they're winding up in America. They're bringing them into Canada. There's a lot of ways to get it in. So, I think that's, he doesn't enjoy the narcotics trade, but I think that's, more or less a side issue. All right, so we need to cover what happened in Venezuela, where they lost their oil. America oil companies had it, and they lost 3.2 million barrels a day. That's a big owie. when you're dealing with Satan bots who think he who dies with the most toys wins, it's really a bad thing. And that's what Trump believes in. Now, Trump may very well come out with excuses why he's not going to attack Venezuela, even though Venezuela never submits to him. So between 2006 and 2007 is where we're focusing here. Venezuela forcibly nationalized much of its oil industry. Foreign companies were required to give the government or the state, whatever you want to call it, the oil company majority ownership. So you're talking 51%. So they control the company, but the oil company would still get 49% of the profits. Well, companies that refused had their assets seized. Several major U.S. companies lost control of the oil fields, the oil refineries, and their infrastructure pertaining to oil industry. Now, what were the oil companies that were affected? ExxonMobil. They lost control of major oil projects. Assets were seized after Exxon refused to submit to taking a minority stake in their own business. They later won international arbitration awards worth billions, never fully paid. ConocoPhillips, one of the largest losers, had stakes seized. I think companies like Petro Azuata, Hamaka, Coro. They won arbitration judgments of 8 to 9 billion with a B. They spent years trying to seize Venezuela assets abroad to collect, but they probably couldn't find any. Chevron staged by accepting minority ownership, operated under the government control, later became the last major U.S. oil company still operating in Venezuela under U.S. sanction waivers. So they got a waiver of the Congress. Of course, it's all corruption and kickbacks, and then let's see. So the foreign partners lost control of their businesses, foreign to Venezuela. Their upgraders, their pipelines, their storage terminals. Venezuela also lost effective control of overseas refineries. like Citgo in the U.S. due to debt defaults and legal refineries. Overseas refineries like Citgo had in America, um, due to debt defaults on the part of Venezuela. Um, the legal fallout. Venezuela faced dozens of international arbitration cases. Awards totaled tens of billions of dollars against Venezuela. Venezuela largely refused to pay, triggering asset seizures abroad. So, before nationalization, Venezuela was producing 3.2 million barrels a day. Their production collapsed to under 800,000 barrels per day at its worst, but I don't think they're much better than that. Maybe they could get 1 million barrels. They're not getting any 3.2. So America sanctioned and targeting Venezuelan oil for what they did because they basically were saying you stole the oil, you know. The American companies are pretty cautious about going back to there. Uh, the U.S. looks at Venezuelan oil as being legally disputed as to who has the rights over it. So if we do go to war, now you know why America went to war. And it's over oil. And it's back to the same old thing. And when you're dealing with Trump, it's excessively reliable. Follow the money trail. That's Trump for you. Okay, just follow your money trail and you'll get there with Trump. The big question is, Trump is being run by basically, he's in the flesh. He's being run by two motives. Okay, fear and greed. That's, if you want to know what makes Trump tick, it's fear and greed. That's it. He's pretty simplex. It's like a child. The Satan bots are basically like children. So, that's it. Uh, Trump could try to disguise his fear and switch horses, like start doing airstrikes on cartels in Venezuela. But Now, we don't know if the Colombians are going to join militaries with Venezuela. That'd be a rather bold move. I don't know what they're going to do, but they know Trump has threatened them, and they know that Trump has been a royal pain in the neck to Venezuela. Sanctions, enforcing sanctions with the military, threatening them, all kinds of problems. So Colombia, sitting there looking at this and say, well, I'm going to have those kind of problems in the near future. Of course, they're probably dealing drugs. I don't think Trump's lying about that at all. Okay. I want to do, so that should give you a good idea of what's going on there. I'm going to have to use this to see how the live stream's going. Looks like we're doing okay. I just get sicker and sicker of YouTube. It just gets so much worse every day. It's just sick. Maybe if I go and do this on, let me just try this. If I go on, use the browser to get to YouTube. I might be able to get myself to look at the live stream. Not sure. I'm getting the same nonsense. No, it won't open. Let me try here. Let me see if I can get there another way. See, they changed something because it worked. It worked differently yesterday and for years before. Now it's not. See, it shows me the live stream is there, but if I click on it, it won't open. Why is that, right? See, they just keep making it worse and worse. Let me see if I could do anything with Studio, if I can get it to open in Studio. I doubt it. I don't even think Studio knows it's broadcasting. Let me see. No, I don't think Studio even knows what's going on. Okay, great. Got one other idea here. Let me open it on the browser, and that might work. I got to do it without signing in. Let's see how that works. I get the sun again. There it is. Let's see what I can do. See if I could find my own live stream. Yeah. Didn't do it. I got it. Now I know how to make it work. All right, let me see what I can do here. Now I know how to make it work. All right, let me see what I got here. Now I know how to make it work. All right, let me see what I It says sign into chat. I think I restricted the chat yesterday to just subscribers. I think I did that. I think I restricted the chat yesterday to just subscribers. I think I did that. My offering information and my email address are in the description box at the end of the video. Description box at the end of the video. All right, I got enough out of this. All right, I got enough. If I could only figure out how to shut the volume, I'll just turn it all the way down. That's all. Let it run, I don't care. All right. What a nightmare. They just get worse and worse every time they do an upgrade. It just gets worse. You know, I haven't had a good upgrade from YouTube in years. It just gets worse. All right. So, what happened with Israel and billions of dollars in oil? Well, Trump came out and officially said that the Golan Heights belongs to Israel. What does that mean? That means if the UN tries to do resolutions, which they already do every year against us, telling us get out of the West Bank, get out of the Golan Heights site, that belongs to Syria and all this stuff. It's a waste of time because Trump will veto it, America will veto it, and one veto is enough. That's the end of it. So I'm going to take a break for a minute, come back and explain all this to you. Now, what we're talking about is the Syrian side of the Golan Heights, which we newly got recently. It's not the other side of the Golan Heights we've had for a very long time. So, first thing is why that's important to us. Because it gives us tremendous protection against Lebanon and Syria. It goes up as high as 1,700 feet. So it gives you tremendous lookout advantage. It gives you a good place to keep artillery, short-range missiles, tanks, and so forth. Mobile artillery. It's high ground, which is very important. It's also good for water, because normally the water will go there and run off into the Sea of Galilee. So it militarily protects the north. If Syria had it or Lebanon had it, they would put short-range missiles there and be able to attack various cities in the Galilee, plus probably Tiberias, which is a city of 40,000 people. Now, you might, at some point of the Golan, you might be like 15, 18 miles from Tiberias, maybe even 12 or 14. So the junky rockets could hit there, the advanced Katyushas and stuff like that, probably make it there. Or close to it anyway. So that's a big danger because they could make those easy. Any of the more sophisticated missiles would make it there, plus drones. In addition, if they had the land, they could put paragliders there for attacks, and they could just run off the goal line into air and take off. And, you know. But it's said to have billions of barrels of oil. Billions. Now let's check the reserves for other countries. To get some perspective, okay? How many barrels of oil does Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Kuwait have? Saudi Arabia has 267 billion barrels. The UAE has around 100 billion barrels, and Kuwait has about the same. So it's probably not going to be as healthy as Saudi Arabia, but it could be like the UAE or Kuwait. Now, they say it's tricky to get it out of the ground. Well, Israel's good at tricky. And for all I know, it could have 200 or 300 billion barrels of oil. I don't know. Netanyahu is probably afraid to start going after the oil because it could get taken away. And it would be an incentive to have it taken away. Now with Trump backing it, I'll tell you what's happened. It's pushed things closer to Zechariah 12. Why? Satan and the nations, Satan runs all the nations, don't want Israel wealthy. In the past, they didn't. Israel had the Sinai Peninsula oil wells for a few years, and America made Israel give it back. America didn't get paid back for that yet in full. They will. Now, Israel just signed a big deal with Egypt the other day, 1 or 2 days ago, for liquid natural gas. That's the Leviathan field out in the Mediterranean that we developed. And I'm trying to figure out why Egypt would do that. One problem is the Muslim Brotherhood is going to hate Egypt for this. Okay? Well, let's get back into some of the things that happened in the last day or two. I'll just kind of bounce around with the news, okay? But this thing with Venezuela could be huge. Most people are not aware of it, but got a couple of prayer requests that we need to cover. NE, Normandy Echo. NE, Normandy Echo. I'll do the prayer, and you guys that are believers can agree. For my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for NE. I pray for you to bless the new business service that NE is beginning. Bless it with good results and good profit quickly. And also bless the old business services that NE runs also. So bless them both, and with good profits rather quickly. And I pray all this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you can agree with this if you're a believer, even though it might be a video. We got a cat problem. The cat's name is Foxy, like Foxy Loxy, Foxy. Okay, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for Foxy the cat to be healthy and whole and return home. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you can agree with this also as a believer. So Foxy the cat be happy, healthy, and whole and return home. Okay. We've got a prayer request for EB Echo Bravo. EB Echo Bravo. I'll put a prayer out and you guys can agree. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for EB. I pray for healing for the cold, the cough, and infections, other than the cold and the cough. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you can agree with that, even though it's a video, if you're a believer. Okay. And our prayer requests are always important. Okay. Big thing we do. All right. A lot of people like knowing that they've got that to fall back on when they need it. Russia's made a brilliant move to beat America in the sanctions and get away from Ukraine. They have a fleet of like 8 icebreaker ships. America might have 1 in the military or something like that, 2 maybe. They have 8. I think America has 1. And the Russian ones are nuclear powered. So they could stay out a long time. They need food. Water is probably not that hard. If you got nuclear power, you can cut blocks of ice and melt all you want, you know. So they're going to open ways in the ice for their undercover fleet, moving oil and different things around that they don't want interdicted or whatever. They're going to work around the Gulf of Ob, and the Yenisei Gulf. So they're working on their Arctic energy exports, and they seem to be milking a good benefit for them, that they have something that other countries really don't have. Nuclear powered icebreakers is not a common everyday occurrence. They're going to run their liquid natural gas through there, and crude oil. And minerals. Trump's going to have a rough time with that one because they don't run icebreakers normally. They managed to hack Iranian hackers, managed to hack Naftali Bennett's phone, which was an iPhone 13. They're up to 17 now. But from what they released so far, they got a lot of pictures of Bennett visiting the families of hostages and stuff like that. They didn't really get anything. Bennett's an ex-military guy, special forces. So Bennett would be most unlikely to be dumb enough to talk about, very classified information on the phone. Trump did not talk about Venezuela in his speech, which I guess was the address to the nation on at 9 o'clock last night. He did not mention it, so he doesn't know what to say. Trump is expected to sign a executive order. He may have already signed it yesterday. That's going to reclassify marijuana as a Schedule 3 drug, where it's now a Schedule 1 drug. The penalties for a Schedule 3 drug is greatly less than a Schedule 1. Like heroin is a Schedule 1. Now, it's still a crime, and you could still go to jail. But in some cases, if you're not selling it and you had a small quantity, you wouldn't go to jail. But if it was the third offense, or perhaps you had a bunch of priors and you got caught selling marijuana or having commercial quantities, you could still get 10, 20, 30 years in jail. And if you had a gun, it could be even worse. This is going to mean that the DEA is going to lighten up incredibly against marijuana. Now, there's a tremendous amount of marijuana being sold in stores in the United States that are in states that legalize it, where people get a special permission to buy it, or they don't even need that. I believe the stores at times got raided. So I think in some cases what they probably did was every day take the money out of the store and put it someplace where it could be disguised and kept away from the feds if they decided to raid it. I suppose they could use cryptocurrency, buy crypto, and then find some sort of offshore account they can put the crypto into. They'd need probably a non-American person to do that. Then they could get it into a bank where America has no jurisdiction. And get a credit card from the bank and run around spending money happily. You know, most of the time they limit the amount of cash you could take out of an ATM machine to $1,000 or $2,000 a day. But if you get 2 of those credit cards, you could get $4,000 a day, which is enough for most people to live on, you know. Now, that's not counting purchases. Purchases usually don't have much of a limit. They could, but if you have a generous amount of money in the bank, like $500,000 or $1 million, they'll probably let you make purchases of, you know, 5 or 10,000 a day plus ATM. So I mean, you could get by. The German government, the parliament, their Congress, just approved another $3.1 billion to buy more of the Arrow 3 missile defense system from Israel. So I think they already spent $3 billion. Now they're up to $6 billion. Trump called Islamic terrorism what it is and said that the West needs to stand up against Islamic terrorism, especially after what happened in Australia. Trump's probably serious, but most of the other nations aren't. Trump did say that we don't learn and we all got to stand together against the evil forces of radical Islamic terrorism. He's trying to draw a line between radical
Here. One for you. Snacking.
Wait.
Sometimes I'm a genius. That's my recipe.
Okay. So is there really a difference between radical Islamic terrorism and Islamic period? In some cases, there is. Oh, the guy actually delivered the groceries yesterday. Thank you for that prayer. It worked. First time in ages. And then I was like a jerk. I ordered dried papaya. They sell it cheap. And it usually comes in a big plastic bag. It didn't come. It came sealed in something else. I didn't know what it was. So I put it with the stuff my wife ordered. And then I wrote him a letter that I got shorted. And then my wife came home. She saw it. She said, "No, this is your papaya." I said, oh, they changed the packaging. I didn't know what it was. So instead of it being loose in a bag, they got it sealed tight in some plastic container package, something like that. So I wrote him back and told him I had it. Then we started a parade. My wife thought they didn't send her dish soap. She bought Palmolive dish soap. I bought Palmolive hand soap. With a dispenser, you push it and it squirts some on your hands. So I thought they sent me extra containers of Palmolive hand washing soap because I saw the container was the same shape. It said Palmolive, but it didn't have the plunger. But I didn't pay attention to that because I'm running around putting everything up. It's a big job. So she comes unglued with my stuff, and she wants me to send another letter to them to get a credit for the Palmolive stuff. And I said, wait a minute, I think I have it. She got so mad at me. Why would you take my soap? I said, I thought it was my soap. So we did have the soap. We did have everything. Calling all the nations to come together against Islamic terrorism. in my opinion, is likely to get the Islamist terrorists to start thinking, gee, it's time for Trump to go. The final dead body of the hostage, that of police officer Ron Gavi, is being held by the Hamas terrorists and Islamic Jihad in Gaza as an insurance policy to delay phase 2 of the peace or ceasefire, whatever you want to call it, which calls for the dismantling of all terror groups only after that would a further IDF withdrawal from Gaza take place. So what they're trying to do is in some way stall phase 2, but it's idiotic. I'll develop this with you. Hold on. Israel's in no rush. A body that can no longer die is not in danger of death or sickness or starvation or being raped or tortured. It's dead. In the meantime, we're systematically dismantling all terror infrastructure from above, that's from the air, and from below the ground, that's the tunnels, and also on the ground. When the time comes to disarm Hamas ourselves, they're going to have nowhere left to flee. Putting it simply, the rats are trapped in a much smaller rat trap. If we go to recover this fellow's body, we may have to pay another visit to Doha, which would mean killing more Hamas officials and getting Qatar lit up with anger. Now, there was a Hanukkah candle lighting ceremony at the White House. Go figure. And Trump spoke about Hezbollah. This is what he says. Many countries want to enter and eliminate Hezbollah in Lebanon, not just Israel, many countries. Well, we can't believe when Trump talks like that, because he exaggerates and lies about these things frequently, and we have no idea what he means. If some country says, yeah, keep me posted, I'm interested in, this, Trump's going to say, oh, they want to do it. Well, that's not what the country would say. They just want to be in the loop. And he doesn't name the countries, which is very suspicious. France has a lot of interest in Lebanon. if Israel has to really rip Lebanon up to get rid of Hezbollah, France has got a lot to lose, but I never heard them talking about putting an end to Hezbollah. The regular army of Lebanon is never going to do it. They're 60% Shiite Muslim, just like Hezbollah. It ain't going to happen. In addition to that, the problem is that the Hezbollah are vicious. They'll start killing the wives, children, parents, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, whatever, of the high-ranking soldiers. They'll kill their families. They got free reign in Venezuela, in Lebanon. I've seen videos of them dragging weapons around on the highways. Technical trucks, which is like an F-150 with a 50 cal or a 20 millimeter gun mounted on the bed of the truck. Missile launchers on other trucks, pickups, small missiles. Driving them around on the public highways in Lebanon. You know. The other thing that'll happen is Hezbollah will train their missiles on the army of Lebanon. That could cause the army to join Hezbollah. And then they convert the army bases to Hezbollah bases, and voila, you got a real mess on your hands. You got a Lebanese army that's in a position of doing nothing for 20 years. In 2006, they fought with us and lost. So, most of the soldiers that were fighting back in 2006 are gone. You know, the high-ranking officers, the colonels, the majors, the generals. At the time of the fighting, those guys were probably at least, 35, 40 years old. They're retired. So they got a bunch of people that never fought in the war. They technically don't care what happens to Israel, but they don't want anything to happen to Lebanon. An inconsistency in thought. The UAE, United Arab Emirates, Dubai, if you will, has signed a $2.3 billion strategic defense agreement with Elbit Systems, which is an Israeli company, so they're doing business with Israel, for the joint development of an advanced electronic defense system designed to protect both civilian and military aircraft. Electronic warfare. Now, I'm not really yet revealing what I'm going to reveal to you about what Satan's doing with Israel yet, but pay note, Egypt, a lot of money. Trump gave us the Golan Heights, basically, huge amount of money there. Germany, billions, and now the UAE, billions. and we didn't cover Egypt in great detail yet. We will. The money with Egypt is rather immediate too. This deal with Elbit is over an 8 to 10 year period. See, Israel taxes Elbit at 23% of profits. So a lot of this money is going into Israel. It's not going into the pockets of very many people at all. The 4 or 5 big shots in Elbit are going to have big bonuses and salaries. The other people have a job, maybe they get some overtime, that nothing, right? But a lot of money goes into the government. Okay, now the government has to spend that money, and let's not kid ourselves, they get kickbacks, every country, I believe. So, it's my opinion. So they get their kickbacks, but they're still spending money. So what are they going to spend it on? Well, roads, bridges, airports, tunnels, right? Hospitals. We need new hospitals. We need rehabbing the hospitals. Social services. For Israel's very socialist with getting assistance from them. If you came from another country and you don't have any income, you got to be, I think, 62 as a woman, or maybe 63. And a guy has to be, I think, 66, 67. If it's a couple and they don't have any income, they'll give them probably about 11, maybe $1,200 in shekels, but about that much. In US, no, wait a minute, more, maybe $1,300 a month. Then they got other kinds of assistance they can get too. Now that's not a great amount of money in Israel, but they can get a rent subsidy, which will be a little bit of help. They can get a subsidy on their electric bill and their water bill, which is more help. They could get probably get their Kupat Halim, their health insurance, for free, or get it written down so much it'd be close to free. Look, just me being old, for me and my wife together, it's about $350 a year for both of us. When you go to the hospital, there's no deductible. In other words, they don't charge you $27 for a Tylenol, and nothing. You don't have an itemized bill. I mean, there probably exists one someplace, but why would you ever want to see it? What do you care? You give them your identity card, you give them your health insurance plan, and you're home free. I think up to $500,000 or something like that. And their hospitals are nowhere near as expensive as America. No deductible on the medicine, on the surgery, or the hospital, or the x-rays, or the physical therapy, or any of that stuff. Now, if you go to a family practice doctor, there's no deductible to pay the doctor. Most of the prescriptions you're going to get about an 85%, I think it's 80 or 85% subsidy. I think it's 85, something like that. So your cost of prescriptions is generally going to be, like $4 or $5 or something, for prescriptions. It's pretty cheap. If you go to a specialist like a dermatologist or I don't know, orthopedic surgeon, take your pick, right? They can charge you about 35 check, about approximately $12 every 3 months. So you pay for the visit. It's in shekels, but it's about $12. And that's all the doctor can charge you for 3 months. So a lot of these stinkers do is they book your appointment every 90 days. See, they're louses, So they don't want to see you for free. So they just send you in every 90 days, right? Lovely people. Huh? And you get the 80 or 85% subsidy on prescriptions, on most of your prescriptions. So you pay not a lot. All your blood tests, your x-rays, your sonograms, your MRI, all that's free. So they abuse the testing system like in America. So they'll send you to Dracula for blood tests. That's a room where they do the blood tests. And if you let them, and I let them once do all the tests, they drew 2 big cylinders of blood out of me. It's like I went to a blood bank. They should have gave me a steak and potatoes after the blood work. Bunch of idiots. So I just don't bother. They called me up yesterday and they said, we'd like to invite you. This is how they talk. Invite you to come get a blood test. So instead of just hanging up on them, which is my old method, I said, well, no, thank you, but I appreciate you calling and you have a nice day. She spoke English, so I spoke English too. And she was very nice, and that was it. I'm not going to sit there and every time they call me up and go, come down and get a flu shot. Come down and get a pneumonia shot. Come down and get a shot just for general principles. We want to give you a shot. I'm just making that up, And, you're going to go around and get vaccines all the time, and then you're going to get not just blood work, they're going to want urine work, and then they want the stool sample, which is, I won't even discuss it, it's disgusting. And that's usually where we go. And then from there comes more tests. And why? Because I'm old. And it's cheaper for the healthcare system to try to prevent me from getting anything bad rather than do nothing about me, and then something bad will happen, will cost them a lot of money. Look, I have to admit, blood work doesn't really harm you, except when they take 2 big cylinders out. I scratch my head about that one. How much blood work is that? But I don't bother with it. I don't pay attention to them. I don't go to allopathic medicine. Look, if you get shot, it's probably pretty effective. What are you going to do? Go to the herb store and buy some herbs after somebody shoots you? They got a place for this stuff, but they've expanded their value beyond. My wife's getting tremendous results with this creatine. Creatine is something that bodybuilders will use if they don't want to take steroids. You don't puff up or anything like steroids, but you get more muscle and different endurance. I don't know. They say old people should take it. I'm toying with the idea myself. She sips it all day, and she uses it to get rid of, muscle spasms and problems in the muscle. It really works. And you ever hear of an allopathic doctor telling you to go start taking creatine? They don't even know what it is. They get educated by the drug companies. And, what is a pharmaceutical salesman? They go knock on the door of the drug company. Hey, we got this new drug. It's super fragilistic expialidocious here, blah, blah, blah. They're salesmen like, a car salesman for drugs to doctors. That's what it is. Okay. the UAE is buying this stuff from us because America doesn't have the best stuff we do. And they're worried about missiles and drones coming in from Iran, Yemen, Gaza, Hezbollah, and all the other lunatics. There still is an Abrahamic Accord with the UAE, but they're not very nice about it. They don't like us that much. They need us. Avner's Bakery. You never heard of that. The popular Jewish bagel shop in Sydney's Surrey Hills, which would be the Jewish neighborhood, is preparing to close its doors. This is tragic. I'm sure it's a good bagel store. It's been around so long, and it's closing. That's a shonda, a shame. Citing sustained anti-Semitic harassment and escalating safety concerns following the recent massacre at Bondi Beach. It's 1939 with Hitler, but it doesn't end the same way. Hitler goes down. We don't. Watch. Israel and the United States have completed a joint cyber training exercise. It was really more than an exercise. It was a major collaboration in training. So on digital threats and to deepen cooperation between Israel and America. So America got probably a bunch of smart cookies doing anti-cyber work, eliminating cyber threats and attacks. And Israel's excellent at it. And together, they're probably very effective.